Hi there, and welcome to the 39th episode of My Career Stories Live. And today I'm joined by Jo Watson, who is copywriter and author. So welcome, Jo. Thank you for joining.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Sarah. Hello, everyone.
So we're going to be talking about Jo's career today, obviously, like we always do, and also talking about her book, which she's recently had published. So that's going to be really good information. So I'm just looking back, and we connected about 3 years ago on LinkedIn, and then I've been a member of Jo's membership group, GDI, or Goddamn Inspiration, for just over a year. So that's kind of how we know each other. So as always, please do comment to let us know that you're here, where you're joining from. Feel free to ask any questions or share your experiences in the comments. And if you're watching on replay, then I will come back to those later on. And just very briefly on the basis for the lives, I've just always been really interested in what people do, why they do it, learn about different roles and career paths. That kind of gave me the idea. And really, it's to give people advice on places to source information. And normally my guests give some really great information about their career and how they've got to where they are. So, Jo, over to you. Can you give us a brief intro into what it is you're doing right now?
Well, I'm attempting to be a half-decent copywriter. This is my 10th year of doing it. It's just weird to think that I say, you know, I've been doing this for 10 years. In actual fact, I was probably doing it a lot longer. I just wasn't getting paid for it. And I mean that in the sense that I was doing things on the side for people, you know, even if it was just writing in the sense of writing a job application for them, you know, a letter, a covering letter, or writing a complaint letter for them. I was always good at those so that they could get money back or money off or whatever. I was always doing it and thinking, oh, this is a nice favor to be able to give to people. I never once dreamed that actually, no, this is a bit of a money maker. It's a career in itself in order to go out there and be good with words. So yeah, 10 years officially in business. And like you say, recently I got published as well as an author, properly published as well. Not one of the things.
Excellent. Do you want to show your book?
But this sort of thing. This sort of thing. And behind me as well, I can't, we've said this about StreamYard, I don't know which side everything's on.
Yes.
Music there.
Yeah.
That is the front cover. I know the light's bounding off it. That's a picture of my front cover, and my little girl Lily is written on it saying, "My mummy wrote this." I am so proud.
Oh, so cool. Excellent. That's really cool. So you did sort of touch on it then, but can you just give a definition of what is a copywriter?
It is someone who uses words or messaging in order to get a specific effect or outcome from the audience, or from the people who are listening to it or the people who are reading it. And it's inspiring people through words to take some kind of action. So to feel something, to believe something, to go out and do something. It's to have like that power over people so that ultimately they are responsive to it. In business terms, they buy. So majority of my clients are selling a product or a service, or it might be a membership or a course, or it might be, you know, just getting people to buy into a brand and to be on board with that brand or sign up to a mailing list. But the point of good copywriting is that it does kind of light a bit of a fire under people, so they go, oh, hang on, I'm going to go from here to there. This copy has made me do something.
Excellent. Okay, that's cool. And we'll come back a bit later to how you got there. So we're going to start off now with early careers. So did you have a job whilst you were at school or at college or at university? And if so, has that helped you in any way?
My first job was, when was it? It was just before I went to uni. So I will have been, 17, 18. And I was a waitress and bar staff. Well, I was a bar staff when I turned 18, but member of bar I turned 18, of course. But what I loved about that job, apart from the fact that the tips were amazing, and in no other career do you get stuff like that. What I loved is the fact that the place I was working in was brand new. And so they got like the top team down to basically train everyone in everything. So, you know, if you'd gone in there as a job to be a bar manager, you needed to know how to wait on, you needed to be at the pot wash, you needed to know how to go down into the cellar and do everything there. You needed to be able to handle management level inquiries or complaints. And they trained everyone on everything, which I just thought bloody brilliant.
Yeah.
And it was a job I absolutely loved. And sometimes I just think, God, I would go back to that for an easy life. I can smile at people and hand out plates and then say, are you going to throw me a fiver at the end of this on top of my wage? So I loved that. But at school, I was very lucky. I applied, I don't know if they still do work experience at school anymore. A
I
lot of
don't
people,
know. Well, they didn't after school, no.
it's such a shame. And admittedly, most
Yeah.
experience placements were just utter rubbish. It was that you turn up and make tea or photocopy something. When I was 15, I had my work experience and I didn't get in at the local paper because I wanted to be a journalist, and I didn't get in. In fact, someone who got in was someone who was not interested in writing at all. So that annoyed me. I got put with a photographer and it was brilliant. Like, I met famous people and I saw all the tricks of like how photography, how it really works, everything that goes on behind the camera. And it was great. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, this guy whose business it was gave me 200 quid and went, is that all right?
Oh my word. Yes, brilliant.
This is brilliant. So I loved it. So I always, I think, thought at an early age, wow, you can go out and do fun stuff and be paid for it. This is
for it. Yeah, it's a really interesting point because I know I've complained quite a lot to the school about not doing work experience. I think you just learn so much from it, even if it's, I hate this, I never want to do this again.
Exactly. And it's important to learn those lessons. And I feel that's something you do continue to learn. So, for example, if you're working for a manager or a boss, even if they're terrible, and I've had a few,
Yeah.
you learn from them because you think this is how not to manage a situation or people or resources or budget. And so when I do it, I've learned so much from this situation. So yeah, you can always take from the negatives.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Okay, then I noticed on your LinkedIn, you did quite a lot of activities and societies at university. So how did you choose those and have they helped you in your career?
I always feel I should have done more.
Really?
I'm one of those people who's like, youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah.
I wish in some ways I could go back to university and be in all the societies and try all the things and do that. At the time, I was just pretty much coasting, really. I was fairly clever and felt that I'd never really have to go above and beyond in anything. And I wasn't massively social, so I didn't want to do a load of things. But like I just liked I liked working for the paper.
Yeah.
My job was to go and like review restaurants and bars when they opened.
Cool.
It's like the best gig ever. Whereas all my mates were like reviewing bands, and I thought, yeah, well, that's fine. I've got about as much interest now as I did then, which is still none. So that wouldn't have been great for me. But no, I did enjoy working on the paper. I had a bit of a stint on the radio. That was quite nice. I just wanted to try it. I think I thought I would have a career in some kind of communications field.
Yeah.
So that would help. As it turned out, I didn't. I went into teaching, which is just about just doing what you're told, sadly.
So you did, your degree was in English language, wasn't it? So did you know from an early age that was what you were going to do?
I feel, first of all, I'll just say, like, I'm delighted my mum and dad had faith in me to go to university because no one else in my family had been. So they could have said, well, you're not going. And I'd have been okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd have minded. I think when my little girl, Lily, is older, if she tells me she doesn't want to go to uni, I'll be delighted. I'd rather she went down a different road. But I felt like I went to uni and I was grateful that I had that opportunity. But I felt like I just did the thing that I'd always done. So I'd always done English and been good. So I felt that was my only opportunity. I wanted to do law, but I didn't apply because everyone kept saying, well, you're not clever enough. You had to be like, they weren't saying I wasn't clever. They were just saying I wasn't clever enough. And rather than kind of fight that or research it, I just assumed, right, okay. That wasn't my mum and dad, by the way.
Yeah.
Just teachers, everything.
Yeah.
I didn't push for something I would have loved to have done. So I did English just because I felt I know I'll be good at it. And I don't honestly think that was the best reason for choosing a degree. I think you should choose something you do want to work in. And before you ask, no, an English degree has not helped me in any way as a copywriter, believe it or not.
Really?
Nothing.
No.
Nothing. It's just, you're just learning a lot about theories, which
Yeah.
is great. And it's, you know, I don't massively regret it, but has it helped me be a better writer? No, not at all, because I don't remember doing any writing.
Right. Okay. That's interesting, isn't it? And I think that's the thing, isn't it? You're impacted so much by kind of teachers' opinions sometimes, and maybe too young to push back at that point.
Yeah, you are. And I think my mum and dad are, you know, brilliantly supportive. They always were, but they didn't know what was out there either. They've not, you know, they were of that era where they left school at 15, went into a job and saw where it took them. My dad was in the same career from 15 till the day he retired. And my mum, you know, was just always in kind of like the same role, but in different careers. And
Yeah.
she went to uni when I was a little girl. She went back
Oh,
and
that's cool.
and became, you know, such a great role model for me. My dad, I get my work ethic from my dad, and I get that drive for education from my mum, because I saw that I think she was working 3 jobs and she went to night school while she was looking after my brother. So hugely inspirational, the pair of them, especially seeing my dad do shifts, even like when he was in his 60s.
Yeah.
And so they're hugely inspirational to me, but they didn't know what was out there and what routes I could take. And I wish I would have had someone. And I would argue that the school careers advisor should have advised me on what, instead of go to uni and do something you're good at.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true, isn't it? I remember one of those careers assessments, I got told I could be a carpet fitter. I was like, really?
Yes.
Or a
Sarah, never too.
I know, or working as a funeral director, that came up as well. I'm like, brilliant choices.
You'll never be out of work.
No, this is true.
People always die.
Yeah.
Recession.
Paul's just said hello, so hi Paul, thanks for joining. Okay, so you then went on to be a teacher. So did you do your PGCE straight after uni, or did you have a break? Or
I left uni not knowing what to do, because I think I spent the entirety of the 3rd year absolutely up to my eyes in a book called, was it Prospects?
Oh yeah.
I think it was like green and black.
Yeah.
Prospect, and it was basically a massive directory of places you could apply for when you were about to graduate. And I looked at all the companies. They're all, of course, massively corporate. I didn't really know what that meant at the time. Like I remember applying to like PricewaterhouseCoopers and what have you, and I didn't get in anywhere. And I was annoyed at that, because I did have other extracurricular things about me, and I'd volunteered, and I just thought, God, what these people who are getting these internships, what are they doing that I'm not? And it was a very big reminder to me, and it stayed with me forever, that it's not just about the education you get. You're going to have to get so much more and have so much more about you if you're going to break into anything. But I applied for everything. I got nothing.
Oh, looks like the Wi-Fi's just dropped. Okay, so just give it a minute, see if Joe gets back. Oh, this is a bit of a pain. Okay, so let me just...
Fun stuff.
Okay, so Joe's just dropped out. Hopefully she will join back in just a moment. Not too sure what's happened there, but I know there was an incident with a car driving into the central Wi-Fi box near where Joe lives. So here she is back again.
Was that on my end?
I think so. It just froze. I mean, I did say that you had an incident with a car driving into the internet box in your road, so it could be that.
Not my car. I would just
not your car. No.
Point out, I'm so sorry about
That's all right, no worries.
But no, I think I was saying about Big getting up to the last assessment centre with 3M.
Okay, yeah.
and I was so proud of how well I was doing. And then I just got this email saying, no, not on this occasion.
Oh,
I think I've been through like 3 assessment centres with them, and it was just a blanket no. And as a result, my best friend at uni, Lucy, she's still my best friend to this day. She's boycotted Post-it notes. She just won't use them.
excellent. In protest.
Because of how I was treated so appallingly. But I enjoyed that whole process, but I never got anywhere. So I left uni and went to work. I saw an advert in the local paper at my mum and dad's, and it was to be a play leader. And
Okay.
I'd never worked with kids. But I thought I'll go along. It's a bit. Am I allowed to say it was cash in hand?
Perfect. Yeah.
So that was ticking a box. And I went along, and I was good at it. It was great. It was all through the summer holidays, after schools if I wanted it, school holidays. So I did that for a year, and my boss, Chaz, who is still a huge influence on me, and he's just like the only boss I've ever truly loved. He's still very much in my life. He said, right, you're going to apply for your PGCE and you're going to work as a teaching assistant in a school while you train. And I was like, no, I'm not. I don't want those things. And he's like, well, you're doing it, and you can decide after you qualify what you're doing. And I thought, so I went and did the PGCE, had a year as a teaching assistant. And this is going to sound massively arrogant. I was looking at those teachers and thinking I could do a better job than them.
Yeah. Excellent.
Which I did believe. And so I just went on, did my teaching for a few years. And I loved working with the kids. I loved the parents. I loved the majority of my colleagues, but it's just, there's no room for creativity.
Yeah.
So that's a massive shame for teachers and kids, of course. So no, it wasn't for me, and I couldn't stay.
Yeah. So what age group were you teaching?
Primary.
Right.
And I was always like the odd one out, because all the other primary teachers were like soft and fluffy and, just very maternal. And I was very much straight down the line. Like, the kids knew where they were with me. And I was very loving with them as well. But it wasn't, all sunshine and rainbows. It was like, no, I want you to do well. Come on. And I want you to try these new things, especially if I was trying to get them to be creative and look at other pursuits. And I absolutely loved working with them. I really did. But like I say, unfortunately, in teaching, you go into it because you want to make a difference in a child's life, and you come out of it because someone from above has totally ruined yours. Yeah, it's a horrendous place to be. You're just absolutely
yeah. So that covers why you left them. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you said you were teaching for about 4 years, did you?
I think it was 3 years in mainstream education, and then I went for a job at Blackburn Rovers football club, which my husband was delighted with.
Yeah.
Because he was well, he wasn't a season ticket holder. He was when I started working there, because he got mine. He was a lifelong fan of Blackburn Rovers. At the time, it was a lovely club to work for. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was working with children of all ages who were coming to the club to do education days and experiences. So nursery kids were coming to do art. And we had uni students coming to do business studies, looking at how a football club financially operates. And it was fantastic. And I'd go out into the community, and I'd work with people of all ages and abilities in the community on certain projects, with English being my focus. So it was like English booster sessions, that kind of thing. I worked with the academy lads, and it was great until the point where I'd say I got promoted. In fact, I had to take on a promotion because the person above me was, they were there one day and then they weren't the next. And we were told we didn't talk about that. And it was like, well, will you step up and do it? And I did, even though I didn't get paid any extra. And I look back at myself and I want to throttle myself. But at the time I was like, oh, the experience. And, this looks so good on my CV. It's the equivalent of when you work for yourself and you take on those unpaid jobs because of exposure.
Yeah.
It
never works. Yeah.
You just think, oh, this will put me in a really good position. But I did that for a year, and it was awful because although I did get a lot of experience that did teach me and shape who I am professionally and personally, it just showed me how little women are respected in professional sport. So while I'd always been just a teacher on an education program, I was free to just do my job. As a
Yeah.
woman in leadership, wow, it was horrendous. And I thought, I can't stay here. So I went
Yeah.
to work for a startup instead, helped someone else start up their business, loved it.
Okay.
And then decided I was going to go do my own thing. If I could
Yeah.
help someone else start up and make a success, I must be able to do it myself.
Yeah, excellent. That was gonna be my next question. So it looked like you kind of had those roles at the same time. So how did
Yeah.
you know then when it was time that you could go totally alone and do your own thing?
So I worked at a place called Onside for 3 years, and I loved it. I really did. I loved who I worked for. I loved who I worked with, and I loved who I was responsible for in terms of the students who were under my care. And it was a management role, which was great. And I hope I did a good job, like I said, in supporting the owner in building it all. But I just got to a point after 3 years where I thought, if I put all the time and energy into my own stuff rather than into someone else's, I wonder what I could do.
Yeah.
And it helps that, like, my husband, Stephen, he's been self-employed since he left uni. So he's always understood what it's about and what the potential is. And also he knew what the problems were, which meant I had a great person there to support me and to stop me making any mistakes that I presume a lot of people do when they start off. So I just felt like I was in a good position, but I was a little bit scared. So I went to my boss and said, "Can I go part-time?" And he said yes at first, and then he changed his mind and said no. And it wasn't him being funny. It wasn't him trying to, like, make me not work on my own projects, but it made me realize that if I'm so integral to that business, I must be doing something right. I must be
Yeah.
good. So therefore, I need to take all of whatever it is I'm doing, and I absolutely need to do this on my own. So I
Yeah.
just said, "Well, if I can't have part-time, I'm going to have to go."
Yeah.
And then at 3 weeks later, after going, I found out I was pregnant with Lily and spent the first 9 months of my business throwing up.
Lovely. Oh, yeah, that's just typical, isn't it? Okay. So
It's a challenge.
Paul's just asked now, do you think that women working in sport are more respected now, and in business in general?
I don't feel I can speak generally, because of course I will only ever know about my experiences and the experiences
Yeah.
that are shared by the people I know. In terms of sport, though, I'd go out on a limb and say no, they're not respected. And I see that from the fact that they had, even when I was there 10 years ago, they had such a long way to go then with equality of any kind.
Yeah.
I can't see them of having made such big leaps that they now embrace a
Yeah.
woman in leadership, or a person of color in leadership, or looking outside of their own little pocket of people. And I think sport, professional sport, is one of those industries where it very much is who you know. So, and you'll see that constantly. So when a manager leaves a club, the new manager will come in and they'll bring in their own backroom staff. And so it's not just the manager that's out, it's whoever was with them as
Yeah.
well. And it's just constantly like that. It's about people who already know people. And sadly, it is the white middle-aged man who's in that role. And they've got set beliefs. I'm not generalizing men. I would never do that, just as I don't want to be generalized
Yeah.
a woman. But it is the makeup of how it looks. And all the women tend to be in much lower roles. They're in secretarial roles and support roles. And there's just no respect there for them, sadly.
Yeah. No. Okay, so going back to your business then. So how has your business developed over the years then, since you set up to now?
I think I've become a lot more skillful in choosing who to work with. Because I think at the time when I set up a good write-up, it was, as I imagine it is for everyone else, you want to get clients wherever you can get clients.
Yeah.
And as a result, you take on projects that perhaps you knew deep down you shouldn't have taken on, and you work with people who you know you shouldn't have worked with, the red flags were always there, but you chose to ignore them because you believed that A, you needed the money, and B, if you turn this down, what if you never work again? And it's for so long when you're out there on your own. And so I think I've become a lot more confident in the fact that the slow times will pass and there will be as many peaks as there are troughs, if not more. And I think I've been, a lot more choosy in who I work with and what kinds of projects I take on. I think in the last 3 years in particular, I've moved to something called Sorted in 60, which I know you've had a session or two on, Sarah, yourself. It's more about me working collaboratively with people. So not necessarily doing the writing myself, but working with a client to help them get there themselves with all the ideas and all the strategy that goes with it. And I've loved that. And I'm thinking I may in the next year or so just come away from the copywriting and just focus on that. I know never say never, but I don't know. It's just what I love. It's what
it was a great session. I think we noticed, didn't we, when we had our session, that it was actually sort of in 14 minutes, so you didn't even need 60. It was so, you know.
I do love that. I still tell people that as well. Like, actually, I can do this in 14. I have a track record, but use the rest of it for whatever you want.
Exactly. That's cool. So you've sort of answered this one already, I think, but I normally talk to people about their values. And do you think your values have an impact on on your work or who you work with? So would you say that's the case?
Yeah, I think it shines through when you've got, I hate that word, aligned, but I'm going to have to use it because I can't think of anything else. But when you've got someone who gets you, it makes everything so much easier. And that's why I'm not afraid of people looking at my stuff and thinking, oh God, I couldn't work with her, because it saves me a phone call. It saves an awkward Zoom where we're both there thinking, how do we get out of this? So it's good for people to already feel like they know me and know what I stand for and how I might work. And like I do a little bit of research on them. If someone approaches me, I go and have a bit of a Google. And if I think, oh no, we don't have things in common, and it doesn't mean we have to be alike, be absolutely poles apart, but if you get each other and you can work well, it's wonderful. But it's about brands as well. So I work with some brands, and I had one who approached me, and it was a cosmetics brand, and it was a great gig to have, or it would have been, but they tested on animals, and I just thought, I can't do this. I'm going to have to say no. And you do. Oh God, the cat's here. Speaking of badly mistreated animals, Barry is here. You've got to have those values. You really have. It's who you are, and I think it shines through as well. And I think you do a better job for people who you feel more connected with, and everyone wants the absolute above and beyond.
Yeah, agree. Excellent. Okay. So now published author. So how did you come up with the idea? What was the process, and how's it going so far?
So as I'd mentioned, I'd gone all out on running my business, full time, actually charging people. And at the time I found out I was pregnant, I was hugely sick, and writing was a real outlet for me. It was something that, it was a bit of escapism, because I was struggling to build a business as well as I wanted to, because I felt so ill. I was literally one of those women who was sick every day until the baby came out. And
oh my God,
it was awful. I know Kate Middleton's stolen our thunder with that. I know no one cares if you're sick every day and you're not royal, but it was horrible. Here he is. Come on, Bazza. But I saw running my business as something that was something I could channel myself into. It was a way of keeping my identity, because when you do become a mum, it can really affect you. It's wonderful, but not always. And I never made any bones about that. There were days I really struggled, and I still do. But I found that writing was a nice solace for me. And I just found myself writing things for my own personal blog that was about combining being a parent and running my own business. And I was finding similarities all the way through. And then it got to a point when Lily was about 3 or 4, And I thought, not only am I seeing all these similarities between the two, raising a baby and raising invoices, or, you know,
Yeah.
running a small business, raising a small person, but I thought I could make it quite funny as well and put a bit of a different slant on it. And perhaps this book could be a nice resource for someone in a way that I never had one.
Yeah.
You know, because there was no one. I knew people who'd had babies, but they'd gone back to work or they'd
Mm.
stayed as a full-time mum. I didn't know someone who'd done it and then tried to carry on as normal running a business. Likewise, I didn't really know many people who were running their own business. And it's still the case to this day. Most of my
Yeah.
old school friends are employed, and so
Yeah.
they don't really get what I do. And I just thought it might be a bit of fun, something different. I didn't think, you know, I'm happy to be, you know, proved wrong on it, but I didn't think there was anything else out there that was doing the same in a published book format. So I just put the idea forward, and yeah, it got picked up by a publisher, and I'm hugely grateful. So
Yeah, which is amazing. You kind of say that like that's a bit of a breeze, but I know it's really, really hard to get picked up by a publisher. So
oh
yeah,
yeah, completely. I got turned away so many times.
yeah,
And there were people saying to me, "Oh, just self-publish," because I do have quite a big following on LinkedIn, and I'm so grateful for it. And
yeah,
probably a lot of reasons to go self-published, and certainly financially that would have been a lot better.
yeah,
However, I'm speaking to the local library at the moment in Bolton, and they had to do the due diligence that I had been properly published, because they said, look, we've got so many people who just publish themselves on Amazon. We can't work with them. We can't promote
yeah.
them as an author because there's no quality control. So it's good to know that, yeah, having that
That's good.
given me credibility.
Yeah, brilliant. That's really good. Okay.
Oh,
I
yeah.
noticed also you've done lots of volunteering. So has that helped you in any way?
It's made me realize that sometimes being a volunteer, the more you give, the more people want to take from you.
Yes. Yeah.
It can become a full-time job in itself.
Mm.
It really can. And so I'd always say to anyone, if you volunteer, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Make sure it's because it is something you love and it is something you can benefit from and bring a lot to. But don't do it just because you think, you know, it's something I should do, because it can become very tiring. You get
Yeah.
tied up in so much stuff. I was a school governor for a while, and wow, it did become like a full-time job. And yeah, the more you give of something for free,
Yeah.
it's not malicious from people, but the more they take, because they think, well, you've always done this for free in the past, why can't you keep doing
Yeah.
more? But I'm still, you know, involved with a lot of charities and supporting. But I felt like there's one called Speed of Sight, which I absolutely love. I stepped away as a trustee because I felt I was too into the bureaucracy of a charity, whereas I just wanted to support them and
Yeah.
just, you know, love them and champion them. And that's exactly what I've done. So I actually, you know, can feel like I can enjoy it now more just as a supporter than as someone who was actively involved as a
Yeah.
volunteer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I had one of my guests a couple of weeks ago, Louise Brogan, and I asked her about volunteering because she'd done a lot in the past, and her advice was basically don't do it if you're a kind of a mum of a child and running your own company, because you will keep doing more. So that's her advice, is pick your timing.
Oh
So, which
God,
I think is actually really, really good advice.
absolutely. And I think it's a difficult place to be in, because when you're a mum, you are that center anyway of wanting to solve everyone's problems,
Yeah,
sort everything out, and just bloody do it yourself.
yeah,
You know, with things, we have that kind of mantra, and then you run your own business as well, and
yeah,
everything falls to you, so you
yeah.
have to take care of that. So yeah, throw something else into it. Of course, you're going to go full on into it, and you can make yourself quite ill.
Definitely. And I think it goes back to the point, though, doesn't it, about women in leadership roles? You kind of feel like you've got something to prove. I wonder if that's what it is. It's almost self-sabotage. We just take on so much.
It really is, yeah, and it's sad that, you know, we feel we have so much to prove. But I mean,
Mhm.
I remember going back to the, you know, working at a football club. I remember going to one of the other senior women there, and I begged her for help. Really, I was like, "Come on, you must be able to see what's
Yeah,
happening here." And her opinion was very much like, "Well, no one helped me, so I'm not helping you." And I thought,
brilliant.
wow, who needs, you know, men to be massively sexist when it's right there from your own kind. But I thought I had this horrible vision that if I stayed there and tried to toughen up, or as I was told, thick skin, I'd end up just like her.
Yeah.
And I didn't
Didn't
want
want to. Yeah.
someone else. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, so have you got any advice for people who want to work as a copywriter?
Yes. First of all, if you believe all of those adverts that are everywhere that you can be a six-figure copywriter, yes, that might be true, but you're going to spend a hell of a lot of time getting there. Either because you spend a lot of time and do a lot of work getting so good that you can charge an absolute premium and just pick and choose your hours and clients, and that's how you'll do it. But that takes time and
Yeah.
reputation to build. Or you'll do it because you will work yourself into the ground, taking on every project going, so that, yeah, you've got a shed load of cash, but everything else about you is gone because you are filling your time, you're trading it all for these gig projects. So don't believe the whole issue with money. Don't go into any business yourself if you want to be rich in the first few years. It ain't going to happen. That's not just copywriting, that's anyone. But copywriters as well, please, 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 and I was saying this on a training course I was running this morning, please know the difference between copy and content, because there's a lot of people who are content writers who are writing to inform or to tell people what's going on, to say, you know, this is what we do, that kind of thing. That's very different to copywriting, which is a whole other skill, and it's getting people to essentially part with their cash and getting people to go, I remember that tagline, I remember that advert, that made a mark on me. It's a completely different skill. So if you are thinking copywriting, it's not just about, oh, I can just write. It's about knowing you write really well.
Yeah. Okay. That's really good advice. Okay. And then finally, advice for people that are about to leave school or university and getting started in their careers, and maybe those that are wanting to teach, but come back onto that one. But in general, with what you know now, what kind of advice would you give people who are looking to start their career?
I would say go and find as much advice as humanly possible. Try not to stick within your echo chamber. And by that, I mean your careers advisor, if they're still out there, your parents, your friends. You need to go and find other sources and see what people have done, because otherwise you're just going to follow the pathway that everyone has either followed themselves or believe that is right for you. You need to do as much research as possible. I personally don't think uni is the be all end all as it once was. I think there are so many different ways you can travel now to get to that career. I'm all for people starting up their own businesses, even if it's just as a sideline, seeing if they've got that opportunity to make some cash and get that feel for what entrepreneurial spirit might be. But yeah, definitely do your research. And just because everyone is saying you're destined for something, if you've got a way of coming away from that, please do, because I don't regret anything I ever did, because I love where I am now. But I can't help thinking, would I have been here 10 years sooner if I'd have done things differently? So
That's a good point.
to ask for help, ask for advice.
Excellent. Okay. So Nuno is saying he's got 17-month-old twin girls, difficult to find time to get work done sometimes. So I think he needs your book, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. Please go buy my book. It is well, if you want to go to Amazon for convenience, please do, but it is available in all good bookstores.
There you go. So where can people buy your book? So yeah, any bookstore.
Yes, you can. This whole thing. Yes. You can go to a bookstore of your choice and say, TOT Analysis, Why Running Your Business is Child's Play. Do you have it? If it's an independent bookstore, it might take a couple of days for them to get it in. Sadly, I'm not famous enough to be on shelves. I have to sell
Not yet.
You can get it in any store. You can order it. About finding the time though. I remember, like, just, wait. And if you've got two, bloody hell, I've got no advice for that. But I used to just wait for Lily's eyes to close. As soon as she was napping, those heady days, I was getting in there and I was doing something. I was just trying to. But I think as well, I embraced the fact that I will work when the time allows me to. So although my husband was there at 2 a.m. saying, for God's sake, go to sleep, if I was wide awake and I knew that my child would probably be awake in 45 minutes anyway, yes, I'm sure sleep would have been the healthier choice. But if I had a good idea or I knew that I was fired up to do some great work for a client, I'd do it then. And I didn't care who judged me for it, because I just made it work as best as I could. And it does get easier as they get older as well, a bit.
Yeah, and then it gets harder again. But anyway,
it's harder again. But in some ways it does get easier, especially when, you know, they don't quite need you as much. When they start school, that's a game changer, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Okay, well, thank you, Jo. We're about out of time now, so thank you very much for joining us today. It's been really, really useful and interesting. Thank you to everyone that's been watching. And then I'm back. Sorry.
Thank you to Barry, of course.
Yes, thank you, Barry, and for showing your nice side today.
Nice side of Barry, yeah.
Yes. And so I'm back in 2 weeks. Is that 2 weeks? 3 weeks? Yeah, whatever that is. 28th of March. So I'll be talking to Gareth John, who is chairman and director of Accountancy Training College. So again, that's going to be a really interesting chat. I know he's really, really passionate about apprenticeship. So looking forward to talking to him. Okay, so thanks again, and see you next time. So thanks, Jo. Bye.
Bye everyone. Thanks, Sarah.